So I think we have a quorum. I'm seeing community members, parent members. Do we have a quorum? 2 community, 2 parent. We got 4 so far.
Yeah, that actually is your minimum quorum, I believe. So yes.
Yeah, we don't need to wait for Vicky or anybody. Okay, well, if we have a minimum quorum, let's go ahead and get started. Oh, Laurel's here now.
And
So
Laurel's here, so we're, yeah.
more community than parent. Excellent. So then let's call it a meeting. Let me find my agenda. So this is let's have calling the meeting to order. Let's do roll call of council members to establish the quorum, please. And I'm gonna change my view so that I can call on people, scoot everybody over. Make this bigger. Okay, so I'm gonna call on people now that I can see everybody. Okay, Laurel, I'll call on you first because I see you're not muted.
Laurel Hill Ward, present.
Thank you. Thank you. Welcome. Chelsea?
Chelsea Parker here.
Thank you. Laura?
Laura Swanson here.
And I thought I saw Trisha here too.
I'm here. Yeah, Trisha here.
Okay, thank you, Trisha. Thank you. And Monica McDaniel present. Thank you. Would anyone like to read the school verse? Shouldn't always be me. Do you want me to pick? Riley, will you read it, please? Or did someone volunteer?
I said I'd read it if you want, Monica.
Okay, Brianna. Brianna.
This is our school. May peace dwell here. May the rooms be full of contentment. May love abide here, love of one another, love of our school, and love of life itself. Let us remember that as many hands build a house, so many hearts build a school.
Thank you. Are there any agenda modifications this evening? Okay, hearing none. Let's move on to what we're here for. Governance, item 2.1, extension of unused Families First Coronavirus Response Act, FFCRA leave. Susan, can you tell us about that, please?
I sure can. Last year when the coronavirus lockdown hit and we were asked to close schools, one of the things that was put forward in their package was the extension of a coronavirus response leave so that those who were affected by and needed to take longer family leave or sick leave could do so because of the coronavirus and not be more significantly penalized. That was closed December 31st. So currently there is not a coronavirus response act leave in place. What they did offer to us though, or suggest to us, is that we had the ability to extend those benefits on a voluntary basis to our employees through March 31st, and with a specification that there will be some tax benefits around it. Not totally sure of the cost, but feeling that we clearly are still dealing with the coronavirus and the potential of employees getting sick or needing to care for family members because of it. So I would like to put forward that we accept the extension of the leave through March 31st. And that's what's available to us at this time. I don't know if it will extend again after that. I called the special meeting because of this, because I didn't want to take the chance, knowing that this was available, that somebody would need a leave and I would not be able to give it to them because we hadn't had this passed. So.
Got it. Thank you. I have a question before I open up to other council members first. We can only extend it a few months. I guess that's better than nothing. Could it be extended again? I mean, my question is, can't we extend it till the end of the school year? But I don't know the answer to that.
I can answer that. I was just at a small business training that we discussed this. And so this is it's a federal program, Monica. And so the expectation is that the incoming president and his, group will come up with their own and have modifications and actually like repackage and present another act that will replace this. But because that's not available, businesses were given the opportunity to be able to extend what was already in place so that there wouldn't, like Susan said, that there wouldn't be a gap. And so I think it's really important because as Susan touched on, some of the things that it covers is the emergency paid sick leave, the emergency expansion of FMLA, which is EFML, as well as tax credits. And so I think it's important, and it seems like it's a really short-sighted thing because we're only expanding or extending until March. But like I said, the expectation is that by March 31st, there will be additional information out about what will become available. I mean, that potentially they'll just extend this one, but that's kind of the new president and his team's responsibility now to decide if they're going to keep this or completely redo it.
Great, thank you. That makes complete sense. And the new administration may even come up with something sooner that may replace this. But that makes complete sense. Thank you. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Are there any other questions or comments? Is there any questions or comments from the public? Okay. All right. Do I hear a motion? I want to call the question. Is there a motion to accept the extension of the Unused Families First Coronavirus Response Act? Laurel?
I move to accept the extension.
Okay. Is it enough to say? Chelsea?
Okay, sorry.
All right. Sounds like we have a first and a second. We're not wasting any time. Is there any further discussion? Okay. Look, your hand wasn't up. You were just looking at thing above your head, right? Okay. Just making sure. All right. So let's have the vote then. Hearing no other further requests for discussion, I'll call on people for a roll call vote. Trisha, let's start with you.
Trisha Aterutua, aye.
Thank you. Laurel? You're on mute, dear.
Laurel Hill Ward, aye.
Thank you. Laura?
Laura Swanson, aye.
Thank you. Chelsea?
Aye.
Thank you. And Monica McDaniel? Aye. Okay, so the extension of Unused Families First Coronavirus Response Act passes unanimously. Thank you, Susan. Thank you for calling this special meeting because that is really important to make sure we have that coverage without any lapse of protection for our staff and faculty. Okay, so moving on to item 2.2, the COVID-19 safety plan updates. New updates to state safety plan expectations and definitions from the state will be reviewed.
Yes, so the next item on the agenda, again, the COVID safety plan update. The governor came out last week with some new updates that he wanted done to the safety plan and some new language. So in reviewing the requirement that he has, which is that we have a safety plan posted and with certain things covered in it by February 1st. This seemed like a good opportunity also to discuss this. Our safety plan as it stands actually covers his requirements. So congratulations everybody for the work that we've done. But there are a few additions and changes. So, and I just wanted to make sure that this language was out there and that it was updated and you had an understanding of literally how fast things are changing right now and how difficult it is to pinpoint things. So when you hear information on the news or coming up, know that, we're doing our best to keep up with it. Today I had 2 meetings. I had a meeting, a webinar with our legal firm, Young Mini and Core. We talked about this. I later had a meeting with charter leaders where Mary Zakuma, our county superintendent, she was at a meeting today with the governor. And so between 11:30 and 3 o'clock, there was new information. So just letting you know, we're working at this. Things are changing so fast.
It's
So
a
I'm going to
fluid
present
situation, right?
what?
And Susan, it's a fluid situation, right?
Fluid is, yeah. Fluid
And I want
is,
to interrupt you briefly just to acknowledge that Vicky Wanacott has joined us. Hi, Vicky. Thank you.
okay. Hi, Vicki.
Sorry,
Um,
go ahead.
That's okay. So on January 14th, this came out. There's some additional information, some changes in guidance. I wanted to briefly go over the checklist that we have been asked to put together and to reflect a few changes that I will need to make to the safety plan, but they're pretty minimal overall, and just to make sure everyone was aware of it. Alex, can you put up the school guidance checklist, please? So this first page is just our information about who we serve and so on. This checklist was developed, I can stop there, this is important. This checklist was really developed for schools who have not opened and are attempting to open now, whether or not they're in purple tier. And so when you read some of the language and some of the things that we're not changing or answering, it's because it doesn't apply to us because we're already open. So the first thing I wanted to talk about here was the new terminology they have, which is stable group structures as opposed to cohorts. So where we used the term cohorts before, we will now need to use stable group structures. Cohorts has been reserved to be used only for high-risk category students. So, and if you have a group, as in the initial, before we opened, there was discussion that we could open with just high-risk categories like homeless or special education, those students. That cohort language is reserved for that now. And what we have in our classrooms are considered stable group cohorts. So that's why this is here. I've put in this document that our minimum is 7, which is the size of our smallest class, and our maximum is of 30, which is the size of our largest class. Excuse me, the minimum is our smallest class on site. Those are the numbers I use. That doesn't mean that I either have 7 or 30 in any class. It means that that's what we're establishing as the minimum and maximum that we would have in a stable cohort group at this time. We do not have departmentalized classes, but we do have, and I used specialties as electives to say that we're doing it only through distance learning. Okay, roll on down. We have our entrance plan, our face covering plan, our health screening for students and staff, our health hygiene practices, our ways of identification and tracking contacts, physical distancing. All of these items are already in our plan. On physical distancing, they provided us to provide the minimum and maximum distance between students and classrooms. And we, with the help of Mary Zakuma today, determined this to relate to the distance between desks in a classroom. Because yeah, how do you put down how far students can possibly be away from each other in any time in the school? So the maximum necessary is the 6-foot distancing that we've talked about for a very long time. They are now speaking regularly about the no less than 4 feet away. And so that's sort of the current, the 6 foot is still the standard and best practice, but 4 feet they are considering allowable. So putting both those into the plan and looking towards discussing this again with the hybrid opening team and the group to establish at what point we might want to go to 4 feet or lesser distancing. We're experimenting, as you know, with what we're calling dual classroom, which is 1 teacher, 2 spaces where that class fills. And so we'll be talking about that Monday to see how well it's working. So we're moving on with that. Staff training and family education, testing staff are already all in our plan. In the new funding, potential funding, there is a requirement that we offer testing to students. So it doesn't really sound that way some way in the language, but we need to offer students be tested weekly. It is up to the parents whether the student is actually allowed to test weekly. So, so we would say to our population, we have testing slots available or testing available, and it would be actually up to the parents whether or not that happened, and whether or not they would want to share the information of the test back with a school, because that's part of it. So again, the requirement is that we offer testing weekly to students. We're still figuring out how that would work with a small school like ours, as opposed to, small school versus district. It's much more feasible for us to be able to do that with our less than 200 students on site versus the district and the thousands of students they're looking at doing. So so I'll segue just a little bit into the potential funding that's out there. This is a governance proposal. He proposed it and said the starting date's going to be February 1st without ever taking it to the legislature. So the legislature is working it out now. Though the February 1st due date is still there, the reality of it is not, because the legislature will not have their approval or disapproval of his proposal done by February 1st. So this is a opportunity to put this in place to say that we would potentially offer the testing, but there's no real conditions of having to do that at this point. Because that would be related to the actual funding, which hasn't been finalized yet, and in reality, we don't even know if that's going to happen. So, okay, scroll up, please. Our identification and reporting of cases is outlined in our plan and is still at an acceptable level. Communication plan, the same. The consultation piece is only for schools that are not open. So, and according to Mary Sakuma today, the need to have the health officer approval is also not necessary because we're already open. So that's just the general guidelines. And I wanted to put this out here so you would be able to ask me questions and discuss any areas of this that you might have more questions about.
Great, thank you so much. I have a couple quick questions, and other people may have these same questions, so I'm just going to ask them real quick. And you already said you have no idea how we're going to test students, but I guess, is there any inkling? Because it's currently you have to go to a special location, and there's only one in Chico and one in Orland, and I don't know. I'm sort of wondering if on the horizon, if other people may know if there's testing kits available, or if a person maybe comes to the school and doesn't. I don't know. Is there any inkling at all about how that could be roll out, or is that just this is our intention or the government's intention for a later date? I'm just curious.
So currently there's a provider that Butte County Office of Ed is lining up for. Butte County, Valencia is testing that would be used for students. There are self-testing kits for students to do that have been proposed by CCEE. So there are a number of different ways they're looking at doing it. If it actually came to the fact that the money comes through and we decide we want to take it, then we would need to have a way to provide that. However, we're not even close to that possibility. At this point, we're just saying we would be willing to do that, to offer weekly tests to children if the money comes
Parents-
through. That's really
Yeah,
what
if they pay for it and if their parents allow it. Okay,
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you. And then my other question was, I noticed that this 30 was the maximum. So does that mean that those classrooms that are more than 16 can be together again?
if we implement the between 4 and 6 feet apart rather than a full 6 feet apart, yes. But that also means, for example, right now we have 2 classes that are using more than one room. We can consider them a, what's the term? It's not a cohort. We consider them a stable group.
Yeah.
So they can go between classes and still be considered a stable group of students. So that allows it to be larger.
Got it. Great, thank you. Other questions people might have that members may have before we open to public questions?
I think this is really great. And I was just curious, and this kind of piggybacks on what Monica was asking. But with the change in this from the 4 to 6 feet and the change in the maximum number of students, does us voting on this then override the 16 like she had said, so that we don't, or do we need to specify that if we make a motion on this, so that we don't have 2 conflicting documents and, just to not tie your hands, I guess is what I want to make sure of.
This would override the other, and I would be able to go in and adjust the other document for it so that it matches.
Excellent. I think that's really great. And I think, with the 4 to 6 feet, some of the most recent stuff I've been reading from the American Academy of Pediatrics suggests that for children, even they're saying less than that, even 3 feet. And so I know that the school stuff is all coming out and recommending the 4 feet now, which I think is excellent. So I just wanted to say everything I've seen really supports that. So I'm really glad.
Yeah, and if I can state real quick, in the CCEE, don't ask me, I can't remember what it stands for, webinar that I attended earlier, the decision to go with 4 feet was because of the new virus strains that are coming out. So they made the clear decision to go to 4 rather than 3 because of that.
And I agree. I think it's great. I'm glad for that, still being cautious, but not ignoring the new science coming out. So.
And also not ignoring the needs of young people. That's it's a huge adjustment. Yeah. Thank you. Other questions from council members? Any questions from the public?
Monica Buck had his hand raised in the participant list.
Thank you, Buck.
Susan, did I hear that?
You're on mute, dear. We can't hear you.
Yeah, you're not on mute, Buck. I can hear you, but you're super, super quiet. So I think now you might be on mute. No, you're not on mute, but we can't hear you. Maybe turn your volume up.
I think he's got to get another device.
How about now?
Yes.
Yeah, we can hear.
Susan, did you say that the students that get tested, they don't have to reveal the results?
If they utilize our testing, they will have to reveal their results to the
Did
school.
anyone hear that? No? Did you guys hear that? No?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So if they choose.
Alex, you heard it?
to announce-
You heard my question?
Yeah.
Buck, I don't know that you can hear Susan. We hear you. Can you hear Susan?
No, I'm not hearing anybody.
Oh, can you hear me? Oh,
They would, if they utilize the testing, the parents would have to sign a form saying they're agreeing that the information would be shared with the school. And I
So
believe.
I'm
with the
not
state.
So I'm not understanding they can avoid, just a kind of a worst case scenario, they could test positive, but avoid disclosing that if they wanted to, if they use their own test service.
Well, Laurel, yes, they could do that.
However,
But-
however, if they do go with a private testing service and go get a test, they don't have to notify us. However, the health department does.
So any positive test, Laurel, is reported to the health department. So then the health department would call us, collect the information and call us.
Right, I just would, I don't know, that's a little bit concerning because there's a lag there. And, anyway, interesting.
Yeah, it's the privacy law.
Yeah,
Yeah.
okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
I see Riley has her hand up, but Vicky, are you trying to talk? You're on mute. I'll come back to you, Riley.
After Riley, I had a question.
Okay, Riley?
Just a small detail, my cohort is currently at 6, and I want to be within the range. Please and thank you.
Okay, so one of the thoughts I had today actually was to reduce that number to 2. It would be the smallest possible number that's still a group. So it would be 2. So I will go up, we'll make that change to make the minimum of 2.
Great,
Thanks.
thank you.
Thanks for the inclusion.
You're
Yeah.
welcome, Riley.
Vicky?
So I was wondering, this document and the changes in this document, is that going to be reflected in the number of kids that are going to be coming to school soon? Are you opening more desks? Are more kids coming at the end of January? I'm sorry for being late. Maybe I missed that.
Okay, it's okay.
No, it may affect that. We had, I think, 11 new students come in this week. We still have some that have since we opened for that have said that they would like to come in. So we are continuing to have more and more students want to be on campus. So yes, it might allow us, if we go to less than 6 feet distancing, it would allow us to have more students in a classroom because the limitation is the size of the classroom.
Because we were talking about waiting lists last meeting. So.
Right. And
Yeah, there's people wanting in.
Yes, there are people wanting in, and with the importance, with what we know, the majority of students doing so much better in the class where they can be, and the improvement of the equity for students who have are those higher risk students. We do want to get back as much to on-site as we can. However, we are warned over and over again that distance learning will be expected to continue through the end of the year and possibly into next year.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Other questions? Susan, how is distance learning currently a hybrid situation at Blue Oak, or are those students, okay?
The hybrid program we're discussing are the students that are on campus 4 days a week, and the remaining time, Friday and afternoons, are distance learning. So that's the hybrid program. We often call it the on-site program as well. So that's, I can see where that's confusing. Distance learning are those students that are fully off-site and are seen by their teachers only, or through, are taught only through distance learning procedures.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Any other questions? Do we need to approve the safety plan updates?
I would like you to approve the items recommended in the checklist so that I can then go back in and make those adjustments to the safety plan that you previously approved.
Thank you. So do I hear a motion to approve the checklist? Chelsea?
I would love to make a motion to approve the recommendations included in the checklist with the change to the minimum cohort size to 2.
Thank you. The minimum stable group structure size?
Yes, stable group
Yeah.
structure size. Thank you.
Okie
for that.
dokie.
I accept that change.
Thank you. We got a first. It looks like I had a hand up for a second. Is that
Not
you,
sure.
Laurel, for a second?
Second.
Fantastic. We have a first and a second. Is there any further discussion? Okay, hearing none, let's have a roll call vote. Vicki, let's start with you this time.
Vicky Wanacott, aye.
Thank you. Tricia?
Trisha Ateertua, aye.
Thank you. Laurel?
Laurel Hill Ward, aye.
Laura?
Laura Swanson, aye.
Chelsea?
Chelsea Parker, aye.
Thank you. And Monica McDaniel, aye. Okay, I think that's all we came here to do tonight.
That
Small
is-
but huge.
I want
Yes.
to address the next meeting date in this. What we have here is our, in the next meeting date is our regular meeting. With comments that I've heard today and over the week, it is possible that I may be needing another special meeting before the 15th of the month. So I just want to put that out there, dear board members who I appreciate so much. When I was on the webinar from YMC today, the comment that was made is that to expect a lot of action at the legislature over the next 2 to 3 weeks, and which means that we may have to move quickly as well to adjust to those changes. So part of me says, here we go. The other part of me says, this is where we've been since last March. So not a lot of surprises, really.
Thank you. So we need to address a little order of business while we're here in open forum. And that is that our vice chair resigned. And we accepted that resignation last meeting. But I bring it up because I may not be available on February 16th. I don't know for sure, but I'm thinking it's probably, I would be available for special meetings, but just looking at the calendar, I'm not sure if I'm available on the 16th. If I'm not available, we need to establish a co-chair. So I would rather do that while we're on open forum. I would like to nominate Chelsea Parker to be my co-chair.
I would beat me to the punchline. I would like to her on that.
We have two
Well,
nominations for
hold on.
Chelsea.
Hold on, though.
So
I
uh,
cannot
we-
be the co-chair and the finance chair for one, but also it's not on the agenda, so I don't think we can actually nominate and vote on
Yeah.
somebody, but I would absolutely like to request that since we will likely have a special meeting before the 16th, that we do include that on
Agendize then. Okay,
that we can.
that sounds good. Okay, that sounds good. That sounds good. I just wanted to make sure we handled that order of business in case I couldn't come on the 16th and then we weren't dealing with it then. So
yes, that would be difficult. Thank you for bringing it up, Monica. And we'll make sure and make a note of it in case of a special meeting in between time. Otherwise, we'll just have to do it at the very beginning of that meeting. So,
okay.
Okay.
Sounds good. Sounds good. So it gives us one more reason to have a special meeting just in case, just to
Yes,
tie up
it
that
does.
business. All right, everybody. I think that we are adjourned until Tuesday, February 16th, unless another special opportunity pops up prior to that. Thank you so much for your attendance tonight and for participating in Blue Oak Charter Council.
Thank